Cool.
Like we
So
say.
what? Okay, cool. So what got me started with an internet business? So my girlfriend at the time had a hair salon, and I came home. I was actually working for Blackwater Security, and I came home, and she's sitting in front of the computer, and I knew that she had been working all day, and she was actually a contractor too. So she had started this business while she was contracting. She lost her contract. She went home, and then now she was running this business full time. So I walk into her office, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I saw she was just working on the computer. And she was like, "Well, this is called search engine optimization. And if I can get all of these stoplights to be green, then more people will find my website." So I was like, okay, so this is a chance for me to kind of put my Superman cape on and kind of, come in to help save the day. So
Yeah.
while she was at work, I sat there and started learning search engine optimization. So I found some videos on YouTube, went and got two books from Barnes and Nobles about search engine optimization, and kind of skimmed through the books to figure out what the keyword was. And once I figured that out, I put the keywords in, and all of the red lights went to yellow, and then finally I got them to green. So by the time she came home the next night, it was at 300% across the board. So this is around 2010. So search engine optimization was a lot easier, and the location that she was in, a lot of people wasn't doing search engine optimization. So the feedback that I got from her was extremely positive, and the reward was high. So with that type of feedback and that type of reward, that quick, that really kind of put me on a high to start looking more into the internet.
So what's the reward? What were you meaning by the reward?
Sex. I got some women that night.
I went into a real degree.
So the love of a woman inspired me to say, what in the world is this internet thing, and how can I get more feedback like this? So it was a great feedback loop.
Wars fought and won based on that one thing.
That's right. That's right.
So what have you been doing over the last few years? That's a long time. So you've been in the game for quite a couple of years. So what are you currently doing?
So right now I'm actually doing e-commerce. So right now I'm doing e-commerce. I'm also hosting masterminds as well, teaching other entrepreneurs what I know. And the partnerships that I have is with a guy who's a super OG and phenomenal, super smart. His name is Tommy Powers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also partnered with a woman as well, and her name is Kai Rivera, and she's Facebook ads genius and also Facebook funnels genius as well. So all three of us together are like a super group, and we're out here teaching other entrepreneurs about e-commerce. So I'm doing that, and I'm taking the money that I'm making from my online businesses and investing into other small businesses, offline and online. So that's what I'm doing now.
That's huge, because so many people think of just how to make some money, pay the bills, and just have generated revenue. But you're actually doing something that's more like a wealth model. You're turning the money that you get into other investments and pushing it into other ways to continue to let that cash flow turn into more dollars.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for your main business, you're doing kind of a digital info product as well as a physical product?
I am. So for my main business is still selling physical products on the internet. So that's my main business. And right now, again, thanks to my partner, Tommy Powers, I'm able to sell products using YouTube ads. So the same video ads that I was running on Facebook, I'm now running those ads on YouTube, and they're doing extremely well. So now I'm launching another store, and I'll be able to launch another physical product that I just created, and I'll be able to launch that back on Facebook again.
Wow, so you're just kind of like spanning the whole, all the platforms, Facebook, YouTube. That's like the biggest possible traffic. Doing SEO on Google, that's a lot.
Right, it is a lot. It is a lot, and it's a lot to learn. It's a lot to learn, but I think if you're naturally curious, that's really all it takes. I think you just have to have a certain level of curiosity, and I think you have to have a certain level of resourcefulness, and those things really can't be taught. I guess it's just something that you need to have. So even if you don't have a college degree, or even if you don't have a college degree, But if you are naturally curious, I think these things will pique your curiosity and you will learn a lot. And you'll see that there's always more for you to learn. And again, the reward is high. So either whether it's making millions of dollars, I've done over $2 million at this point, and been working on three. So whether it's the money or whether it's just the knowledge that you get that can now you can turn around and change somebody's life by just having a 15-minute conversation. And I've have had a lot of those. So your knowledge now becomes power for other people. So you can now empower people just in a conversation. I think that's powerful.
So you've done so many things. So to be able to get to $3 million, I mean, some people can't even wrap their brain around that. I mean, that's just
Right.
phenomenal. So kudos to that. So
Thank
let me
you.
just ask you, what were some of your biggest challenges in going into being an online entrepreneur, and how did you get over it?
I think my biggest challenge was not knowing what I didn't know. So that was my biggest challenge. And how I overcame that was by getting a mentor. So I got a mentor. It took me about 2 years. So from 2010 to 2012, I finally got a mentor. And then that's what helped catapult things a lot quicker. And then he was able to show me all of my blind spots. So it was that. And then the next hurdle that I had to get over was learning, going from SEO to trying to figure out what is advertising and what is sales copy and sales psychology and all of those different things. And typically, for some reason, there had been a disdain implanted in me for sales. I guess because we see the sleazy salesmen and all this type of stuff, so we don't really understand what sales is. But if you just got cut and you're bleeding out and you need a Band-Aid, and I sell you the Band-Aid for 10 cents. I mean, that's pretty much what sales looks like. So it's offering people what it is that they need, just explaining to them exactly what it does and how it can best serve them. So I think when we wrap our brains around that, which is what I had to do, then it was easier for me to make that transition. And then from there, the next challenge would just be, well, now how do I scale? How do I get this thing? How do I get this thing to the next level? And that came from me not trying to run a business like mom and pop, and transition to, okay, now I'm going to actually have to hire people. So I went from just trying to be a solopreneur doing everything myself to now trying to figure out what is the hiring process. I don't want to do SOPs. I was in corporate America. I had all these desktop operating procedures and standard operating procedures, and now I'm starting to feel more corporate. And you don't want to be corporate, but at some point in time, you don't have to go all the way corporate, but you do have to get some structure in your business, and you do have to have systems in your business in order for you to truly, get to the next level.
Yeah, money appreciates order and system.
I like that.
If there's chaos, it will fly right out of your hands, out of your bank account, and happily into someone else's. So
absolutely. What's that? Fool with his money shall soon part ways. I agree.
It's true. So for you, I mean, you've done so many things over the last few years. Where do you see the next, 1 to 2 years for your business?
The next 1 to 2 years, the goal is to, I want to have sold the business. So I want somebody to have come in and actually purchase one of my businesses, one of my e-commerce stores. So I want that to be one thing that I've done. The next thing is I want to be able to get entrepreneurs in the room that look like me and have them all investing together. So creating an endowment. So that way we know that there's an actual safe place for us. We can all come and say what's wrong with us. So whether you've done $1 million or $2 million and now you're flat broke, I want that to be a safe space for you to now go back to where you came from, because now you have all of this knowledge. Now the only resource you may lack is maybe money, or maybe some resources or some tech or whatever it may be, and we can give you all those things, and then boom, you're back to where you were. So I want to have an endowment and create a safe space for us. And then the last thing would be is for me to do a $100,000 in a day, $300,000 in a day, $500,000 in a day, and $1 million in a day. So I want to be able to do these things in a day. So those are my goals.
I mean, that's huge. So let me just ask this. So when you mentioned being able to sell a business in the future, I know you've put so much work into making sure that your business was cash flowing and doing things well for yourself. But what kind of things have you put in place so that a buyer would be attracted to buying your business and you can get the most multiple or the highest value for the business when you choose to sell it? If you choose to sell it, when you have that option.
So putting things in, so a buyer, from what I learned, a buyer doesn't want to buy a job, and that's what I had before. Before I had a high paying job, nobody wants to buy that. So they want to buy a business that's pretty much turnkey. And so what I did to make it turnkey was I put systems in place, like we just talked about. I had to have somebody come in, write professional desktop operating procedures, write professional standard operating procedures. I have HR procedures to hire somebody should one of these people turn around and leave. And those procedures work because I got great people that are in place. And then the next thing is the finances are in order. Also, customers, returning customers, and then having assets. So when the traffic, when my primary traffic source, which was Facebook, went down, I was able to turn around and not just get back on YouTube, but I was able to turn around and start building up both traffic sources through email and traffic sources through cell phones through push notification, so SMS notifications as well. So building up all of those other assets in the business were huge. So, and I've proven that my customer base will not only just buy from me one time, but they'll buy from me over and over and over again through email. So with those things in place, they know that even if none of these traffic sources work, let's say a Facebook or Facebook, Instagram, or Google, or whatever, or even YouTube, then they still, that email in and of itself is an asset, and it's something that you can take from business to business. So those are the things that I've done.
I mean, that's huge, being able to have different platforms so that, because you don't own Facebook, you don't own Google, you don't own YouTube. So if anything
Right.
ever happens, and we hear all the time about people who are killing it, they're crushing it. Like, oh, I'm doing 500,000 a month. I'm doing 1,000 a month. And then their ad account gets shut off.
That's right. That's right. That's
It's
real.
like the Wile E. Coyote, they're running, and then just the cliff just drops right from under them because
Yep.
it's not their platform. They can't control it. So it's good to know
Absolutely.
that your business, it doesn't only depend on one location, but you're able to get money from different places. And that's what a buyer would want to know. They would want to know the same thing, that there's that safety net, that security, and
Hmm.
constantly knowing that you can leverage different places, and you put all that stuff into the business from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the last thing, we just running things down. The last thing would be too is um, I'm very much end to end. So the products that I create are products that I create. I have formulas for those products as well. So if they just want to wrap another label around it and keep the same offering, uh, they can do that. They can just wrap a new label around it and just kind of copy and paste this over to a whole nother company, and it will continue to work.
So
And I
almost like
don't even know.
you
I don't
can
know the value of that.
your own product to someone else. You can be a wholesaler to
Absolutely.
someone else.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I know you've got a lot going on, and you're trying to take a little bit of a break from the crazy
Yeah.
schedule.
Absolutely. I'm out here in New Orleans enjoying the parade, enjoying Mardi Gras.
Balance, enjoying yourself. So let me ask you, if you did not go into your online business right now, if you didn't make the decision to move forward, if you didn't make the decision to get smarter, sharper, get a mentor, get a coach, do some training, if you hadn't made those decisions and investments years ago, what would you think now, knowing what you know now? What would you think?
Man. So if I didn't do those, if I didn't do all of those things, like where would I be now? Or
Right. What do you, looking back, if you hadn't made those choices, if you didn't move forward, what do you think your life might be like today? Or what do you think you might feel if you'd seen the missed opportunity?
wow, man, probably I probably wouldn't be as secure as I am now because I know that I would still be stuck at a job, and I use the word stuck because what I was doing kind of felt like a prison cell, really. So I was making good money, but it still felt like I was living in a prison cell because I was away from my family and I was really living my life elsewhere, but I wasn't home at all. And the
Not in
contract,
prison, just it felt like it.
right, right, not
Let's
in
be
prison.
clear.
It felt like it. Let's be clear. Yeah, let's be clear. They don't. I don't think they pay too well in prison either. So I was getting paid well, but I felt like I was in prison. And so pretty much all I did all day was read and work out. I mean, that's pretty much all I was doing: read, work out, and then I would go, protect people and facilities. So, but the contract that we had lapsed. So that contract wouldn't come back around to like 6 months. So just because of the things that I was doing, I didn't have the savings that I needed and everything else. So I didn't really have anything to fall back on. And the biggest thing that I tell people is keep your day job, but start a business. Because had I not started that business, when they told me that the contract was up, I just would have been like everybody else. I just would have been tripping out. Blood pressure goes through the roof, and you just start panicking because you got bills, you got kids, you got a wife, you have all these people depending on you. So the biggest thing about starting a business and about getting those mentors in place was I was able to learn from their mistakes, and I was also able to kind of see into the future, if you will, because these guys had been doing this for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I was able to see into the future of what 10 years of mistakes and what 10 years of getting things right looks like. So immediately I was able to put those things in place, and I couldn't see what was happening. I couldn't see around the corner. So next thing I know, 4 months later, after I started working on this business, or I should say, 4 months, about 6 to 8 months later, after I started working on this business, they tell me that the contract is over with, and now I'm home. So now I'm home, and I'm just working on this business and just growing it. And thankfully, it was in place, and thankfully, I had got these things done. So when God shows you a sign, or when you come across a podcast like this, or you come across a video on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you may see this at, or even a presentation at a conference, you really need to jump on that, because you don't know what's gonna happen around the corner. And if you can prepare yourself, if you can give yourself some security, some safeguards, you definitely want to do it. And I've seen this happen time and time again, where God has shown me something, I've acted on it and done it, and then the next month something bad happens, and it's not as bad because the money was there, or some precautions was there, or some insurances were in there, there was some sort of safeguard was there to help me not get knocked down, and that's invaluable. So without doing this, I probably would be struggling, and like I said, I probably would still feel like I was in prison, maybe in another place, feeling like I'm just locked down and I can't move and I can't live my life. I can't. We talk about living our best life. I definitely wouldn't be here enjoying Mardi Gras. I'd probably just be someplace miserable, I guess.
Right, walking on the plane whenever you feel like, because you can do that. You got the flexibility.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's the biggest thing is the flexibility and the quote unquote lifestyle that you get a chance to live when you're doing business on the internet.
And one thing I like about, you and so many other people that I've gotten to know really well throughout this whole journey of being an online entrepreneur is that there's so much abundance. There's so much opportunity that we can share information. We can share strategies, tips, connections, resources. We share and pour so much into each other because there are trillions of dollars. Like, we're not stepping on toes. It's not like a traditional work environment or a place where people are getting money where, if you get something that takes away from me, or if somebody wins, that means I lose. It's one of the few areas where there's so much opportunity. As long as you do the work and you implement, then your success is your own. It's not
absolutely
going to be able to just steal your idea or run away with it, because they'll never be able to replicate you, or they'll never have your work ethic, or they'll never, so it's like we can talk and share ideas because there's so much abundance. There's so much opportunity that there's no way we can drain the whole ocean.
Right. I think, what you just said is huge on so many different levels. And I think if first, for you to grasp what you just said, it has to start with the individual. And in that, what I mean is you have to understand that there is abundance within you that may be hard for you to comprehend right now. And it may just sound like hyperbole or whatever, but there's so much abundance in you. Your story is uniquely your own. Nobody can duplicate your story. Somebody may have lived a close life, but there's nobody trying to do what you're doing right now that's pretty much lived your life and lived your story. So that's your value right there in and of itself. Then you layer on like you just said, somebody's stealing your idea. Again, about sales and marketing and copy and everything else, you have to tell a story, and the story that you tell is pretty much going to be your own, because people are going to be like, tell me about how this thing happened to you. Like I just told you about losing the contract and me working at this job where I felt like I was in prison. Like all of those things are my story. That's my story,
Right.
and you may have a different story. So as we learn these different things, we understand that there isn't any scarcity, because I could be selling a product and you could be selling the identical product, and you're telling your story and people are going to be attracted to your story. I'll tell a story about being in the military. People are going to be attracted to me because I was in the military. You went to a prestigious college. People are going to be attracted to you because you went to a prestigious college. You went to a HBCU. People are going to be attracted to you because you went to a HBCU. You was on the band. You was a car mechanic. You was a plumber. All of these different things, and we're all selling the same exact product, but people are attracted to us because they have that same commonality in place. And that's what we know to truly be abundant. Excuse me. So, of course, we can just share things. And of course, I can tell you my strategy and you can go do it, and everybody else can do it and they can win, because we are all the same. And at the same time, we are all unique and we all have unique stories. So you should really, as the listeners listening to this, I really want you to take in that you are a unique person. And I know you may feel that maybe your life isn't fabulous and you're not getting on planes or whatever, but when you take the time to dig in your story from birth to where you are now, a lot of marvelous things have happened to you, whether they be tragic things, or whether they be things that maybe you're not so much, that you're not proud of, but those things are a part of you and they are your story, and they make you immensely powerful and they make you immensely abundant. And when you layer those things onto some of the things that Rashida will be sharing with you in further episodes, I'm sure, whether Rashida shares with you and her own content or courses or books or what have you, when you layer those things on, you're going to see that there's an ocean of money. There's money everywhere, and that's something that you need to really take into your person. There's money literally everywhere waiting for you.
And I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. That every part of that, I'm like, absolutely, amen on all that. But on the flip side too, it's like if you look at any retailer, right? Like, imagine how many tubes of toothpaste are on the toothpaste aisle.
Absolutely.
They're all there, and they're next to each other, and they're side by side. God forbid, they're not going to stop selling toothpaste. They're not stop, buying and making toothpaste, and people will continue to keep going to that toothpaste aisle and grab it, even though there's lots of choices. So don't, when people look at, online, it's like, it's not saturated. You're not going to be, fighting for trying to make a sale. I mean, when I remember the first early months when we were first getting started, I mean, sales were coming in like consistently, and then over time it ramped up, but it wasn't like it took forever to make a sale.
Right. Right. That's true.
Other businesses, you gotta, rent a building, you gotta, get the products together, you gotta hire staff, you have 2-3 months in before you get a first customer. And online, you have the right product in front of the right person. As soon as you start putting it in front of them in the right platform, you can be making sales, in a couple of hours or a couple of days, certainly a week, so being able to get money and to be able to just put things out there, it's a different world. And I just appreciate being able to work in a space that, someone like yourself or myself and others, when we put the work in and we follow what works, we follow the pattern, we get the same result as what the successful people are doing.
Absolutely.
Put something out there and it makes a sale, and then you go put that in your little piggy bank and keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the things that jumps out to me about doing business online is the flexibility that you mentioned in changing your whole business and making a pivot. That is, that's almost copy paste, setting up another website and, making some other things, making some other changes. And that's probably the reason why a lot of these companies like Sears Roebuck and the Toys R Us's of the world and all these types of businesses have been shutting, these retail spaces have been shutting down because they didn't have that online component. And that online component allows you to adapt and be very agile very quickly. And now it affects what you do in the real world in your actual physical business. So there's a lot of data that comes with that. There's a lot of knowledge that comes with being tapped into that online space. But the main point I want to address is the ability to be able to recreate your business. You just can't go and say, okay, I'm tired of doing you. If you got a physical location, you got a lease, you got employees working in there, you got infrastructure, you got bills, you got all that stuff. You just to pick up and say, I'm going to stop doing business here and I'm going to go do business across town. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of heavy lifting. But in the online space, it's just as simple as a couple clicks of a button. Literally, it's like, okay, well, this isn't working in these states anymore, so now I'm just going to service these these states. So you immediately go from having either a local business to having a national business, or to having a regional business because your business just works well in this region per the data. So those are the types of things that you can do online versus it's very hard for you to do in a brick and mortar. So even I'm not saying don't do brick and mortar, but I'm saying do both. I'm just saying don't do one versus the other. I'm saying do both and learn from both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let me ask the final kind of, the hidden secret that no one really talks about much. Capital. How has your growth been either helped or, stunted based on access to capital? So, a lot of entrepreneurs, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but not a lot of people talk about how they were either able to get or use money to grow their business. And I think a lot more people need to really talk about, well, if I had more money, I could hire staff, or I could run more advertising, or I could hire some coaches, or, do different things to really boost their business. So how have you kind of thought about or used capital in your business to help you scale up or grow throughout these years?
So I've always bootstrapped. And the reason being is because after I fixed my credit, I jacked my credit up by making some bad investments in people, and even investments into myself, where I was trying to build something and I just let my credit lapse. So I had to bootstrap everything. And in bootstrapping everything, once I learned everything that I learned and the cash flow was coming in, I knew that if I could access capital, I could have done things. What I did could have been magnified probably 1,000 times over. So accessing capital is huge, and we need you to teach us how to get out here, access capital. And, everybody can teach you. I guess everybody can tell you how to fix your credit or whatever, but basically accessing the capital and then being very strategic about deploying that capital in your business. So now I've had somebody so now I've been able to access capital, but I haven't accessed it yet because I want to be very strategic about taking that money, and I want to know exactly where that money is going to go, how it's going to impact my business, and then how I'm going to pay that money back. And I want to pay that money back as quick as possible. So when it comes down to accessing, and also there was a sister that I talked to who business runs very well, and she has a lot of potential, but her capacity to produce a product is super low. Guess what? She needs access to capital so she can go and create manufacturing, and then we can turn up her marketing, and then she can make more money. Or you have somebody to where their business is digital, and because they're just waiting on the money to come in and everything looks right, they're like, if I had more money, I could spend more money on advertising, or I could spend more money on a better sales message or whatever it may be, and then I could make more. So everybody needs access to capital.
Love it. And I think you've done the smartest thing. Even if you don't need it, you know that you've done things so that if you ever did need it, you're not scrambling. You don't have to start from scratch. You're not in desperation mode. And being prepared alone, that takes so much stress because you don't make the same type of decisions when you're clear-minded versus when you're in desperation mode. So being able to have some dry powder, you've got some, access to money if you ever needed it, or if you wanted to scale up, or, have some resources into your business, that it's just sitting there. And that's like the best position to be in. Like every investor, every lender, every banker, everyone with a piggy bank of money wants people like you, where you're prepared.
Got you.
But you're not burning through it,
Right.
And you're being really thoughtful about, if you touch it, how are you going to get it paid back? That's the first thing. When people just like, I got the money, and they put literally no thought onto how it's going to get repaid.
Right. But as soon as I get it, I want to start kicking it back to you. Yeah.
Like it's some grant money just sitting there.
Right.
And it's not, and that's a
At
very
all.
stressful thing when you have, unnecessary pressure on yourself and you try to run the business. You always want to be able to have like calm decisions and
Absolutely.
hear that the money is being used because you're going to be able to grow it even more than what you're currently
Right.
with what you've got. So I love
Absolutely.
just being smart about it. That's how you're making the big bucks.
Right. One thing I've heard friends say, and including yourself, is the time to borrow the money is when you don't need it.
Exactly.
So thankfully I was able to access the capital and not deploy it into my business, but I was able to access it, be granted it, and they contact me like once a month, like, hey, are you ready?
I know.
Are you ready to take the money? And I'm like, not yet. I'm almost ready. So this month, I think once I do some testing, I'll let them know. Okay, cool. I'm ready to take the money, and then boom, by the end of the month, I'll pay them back or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's only 2 more weeks left in the month, so that's great.
Right. Absolutely.
Usually get it back in 2 weeks. That's always fantastic.
Right. Right.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for just, hopping on for a second. Wanted to just give people a little bit of insight into what a successful online entrepreneur goes through, the thoughts, the mindset, and just the little things that they need to be prepared for, because sometimes when you do the right things, success comes faster than you imagine. So I
Amen.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.